Broadcasting from the heart of the nation, the next generation in conservative talk radio. This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Yes, it is. What is up, my friends? Welcome into it. It is a Friday and let's just say typical Friday for a Trump administration. There is so much going on. Your brain is going to break with so much news happening. It's a weekend. You're getting ready for a weekend. And of course, they just drop these bombs on us, metaphorically speaking, that we have to unpack and process throughout the entire weekend. So there's plenty to cover today. We'll get to as much of it as we possibly can. Welcome into the show. It is a Friday. You scream, I scream. We all scream for ice cream. Although it is not National Ice Cream Day. That would be the day last year that Joe Biden officially dropped out of the presidential race.
Say what?
Yeah, welcome into it, though. It is so great to have you, as usual. Don Wilkie will be on the program, bottom of the hour, with his book, Freedom Revealed. We'll talk about the state of the Democrat Party and their open acknowledgement and even admittance, to many degrees, that the Democrat Party was basing their entire future on the votes of illegal aliens in the nation. So is that, whoa, yeah. What's that look like? We'll get to it here in just a little bit. But we do our thing on a Friday like we do every single day.
Do it live!
And that's where we start with the program. Again, I am trying to just break down all of the bombshells that have been thrown today, starting off with, of course,
what's trending today.
Which one do we start with? Let's start with John Bolton here, shall we? For those that don't know, John Bolton, former national security advisor for the Trump administration 1.0. Although they didn't quite get along, he was really the national security advisor for the Bush administration back in the day in the early 2000s. Also the ambassador for the United Nations under Bush in 2005 and 2006. So he's been around the block quite a bit on the international scene, we'll put it that way. And his big story today, being raided by the FBI. Now, here's the difference when a raid happens under the Trump administration compared to a Barack Obama administration or a Joe Biden administration like they did under against Trump with the FBI, is that the media didn't know about it until after the fact. Slightly different scenario from what happened to Donald Trump, what happened to Roger Stone when they went and arrested him, and a few others that, hang out with Donald Trump. Because apparently if you hang out with Donald Trump, then that's really, really bad, and that's going to get you arrested or raided or something, right? It's what we can say. It's what we're used to. But the media on this time did not even know about the raid against John Bolton until after it happened, showing that it wasn't just a media spectator sport, but it was actually something somewhat concerning, I guess, about whatever he had, where according to the close individuals on the situation, said that they was concerned about the unattainable or classified information that he should not have had. Sounds vaguely familiar, right? The only difference is Donald Trump was president, and he can declassify whatever he wants to as president of the United States. John Bolton was not capable of doing that. And in fact, he has not been in any sort of political power situation or seat in a while, so I'm not sure why he had whatever documents they were looking at. But is this something deeper? Is there something else going on, and is this the beginning of the reset, as everybody's been waiting for, the Trump administration that we wanted to see happen in round number 2 of this administration, of hitting a reset in Washington, D.C., and ridding ourselves of the infested, deep state, elitist politicians from both sides of the aisle, by the way. John Bolton's a Republican. He worked with the Bush administration. He's a warmonger, which is why the neocon part of the party is kind of fleeing and running away, and they're not as powerful as what they used to be. Hi, Cheneys, that they're still there. But at the end of the day, karma is a you-know-what for John Bolton after the comments he had made, by the way, when Donald Trump got raided at Mar-a-Lago because of the quote-unquote classified information.
Given moment. But I don't think he cared about the classification system. I don't think he appreciated the sensitivity of this information, and he didn't appreciate the sensitivity of how it was often acquired, the so-called sources and methods. So this had been briefed to him before I arrived. It was repeated frequently. I think it simply had no impact on him whatever.
Yeah, whatever. So that was talking about, by the way, that was John Bolton when he was talking about, I believe on MSNBC, talking about Donald Trump's raid back in the day, where he openly just acknowledged, like, yeah, Donald Trump just doesn't care. He is just negligent. He just thinks it's really cool documents, and really had no awareness or even care whatsoever about abiding by the laws of the federal government.
Well, it's very hard to speculate on motive other than that he liked cool things. He saw things so he wanted to take them, and he was pretty much able to take them and not just on classified information matters, on all kinds of things that crossed his desk. Some days he liked to eat a lot of French fries. Some days he took classified documents. He wanted them. Why did he want them? Because he could get them.
Yeah.
Right.
A given moment.
Okay, yeah. So, okay, let's stop there. Hold on. So John Bolton, the snarkiness that he had back in the day that Donald Trump was being raided, well, sometimes he liked French fries, sometimes he liked classified documents. We don't know the motive on why he had those classified documents, but now he's under investigation for doing it himself. Now, Donald Trump says he was not aware of the raid on John Bolton until after it happened. It was an initiative that was done by Kash Patel and the FBI for whatever reason. Here's my question, and if so, this is part of a much bigger investigation that's going on. I'm starting to come to the conclusion that Kash Patel, the Dan Bongino, the Pam Bondi, that Tulsi Gabbard, that all of them that are in the intelligence agencies and the law enforcement agencies, I'm starting to put together that they're getting really frustrated with these quote-unquote, whatever you want to call them, deep staters, establishment types, anti-Trumpers, the TDS types that are in Washington that are actually fighting against the agenda openly and willingly and purposefully, that are putting documents that we need into burn bags, that are trying to hide them in closets, that are openly refusing orders from their new commanders that are Tulsi Gabbard, Kash Patel, and on down the line, that they're getting tired of this garbage, and now we're starting to see exactly what's playing out, which is an investigation on these people for going against American values, because your job is to report to your higher-ups. Those higher-ups are those people in Trump's cabinet or Donald Trump himself, and apparently we're not doing that. Or they're not doing that, at least. J.D. Vance, speaking to MSNBC today after the John Bolton raid and talking about what that motive was, is there something else deeper going on? And my theory, with the prediction of the day here on the program,
Andy's prediction,
is could it be related to some of the foreign policy that we've seen, including, by the way, the Russian-Ukrainian conflict?
We've learned that the FBI is searching the home of former Ambassador John Bolton, his office as well.
Sure.
Can you tell me, why is the FBI raiding Ambassador Bolton's home and office? And did the White House get a heads up?
Well, so we're in the very early stages of an ongoing investigation into John Bolton. I will say we're going to let that investigation proceed. What I can tell you is that unlike the Biden DOJ and the Biden FBI, our law enforcement agencies are going to be driven by law and not by politics. And so if we think that Ambassador Bolton has committed a crime, of course, eventually prosecutions will come. But as you know, Kristen, this is all part of gathering evidence, trying to understand something that we're worried about. And of course, I'll let the FBI comment on the next stage of the investigation.
What's at the root of this? Is this about...
Okay, hold on. Before they ask the next question, something to break down here for just a moment. Just an observation from us on the outside looking in as the third-party observers. I find it really interesting. This goes into the redistricting issue. It goes into so many other political issues, the cleaning up of crime rates in D.C. right now that Donald Trump's doing, which, by the way, he brought a whole bunch of pizza to those National Guardsmen, talking about how great a job they were doing. The crime rates are now at almost 0% in D.C., which is a great win. I mean, pat on the back. Well done. That's awesome. We'll talk about that in just a bit. But this is the game that Democrats have played for a very long time. They play dirty, they play very sleazy, and they get away with their agenda, and they browbeat Republicans. Republicans now, we're doing things in a cleaner fashion, in a more transparent fashion, but it's essentially beating them at their own game, which is why they're so livid and so angry. Take the redistricting for just a moment as an example. They've been gerrymandering for a long time, and we've talked about it with California, Illinois, with the state of New York. They've been gerrymandering for a long time. All we're doing now is doing redistricting that is going to better reflect the states based on their population, based on their voting performance in 2024, and therefore it's going to go slightly more to the right because Donald Trump won the popular vote in most of these states, especially the swing states, and we want to make sure that Congress represents and reflects that challenge. They're angry that they've been able to do gerrymandering for their own benefit for a long time, and now we're beating them at their own game, not by playing dirty politics, but just by playing the same game that they've used and abused for a long time, and they don't like it. Now turning into these deep staters, we have this investigation and this raid on John Bolton. They were happy, they were giddy, they were poking fun, they were mocking Donald Trump for his Mar-a-Lago raid for classified sensitivity now, and now John Bolton is being under investigation for us following the law. If you've broken the law in D.C. for your own personal gain, you're going to get caught, and now we're going to expose you for it. Not doing anything different. You say it's politicizing. You politicize it against us. Now we're just using the law to go after the criminality that you may or may not have done. I don't know what John Bolton may have done, but it's interesting to see that he's the one under the scope right now.
What's at the root of this? Is this about classified documents?
Well, again, I'll let the FBI speak to that. Classified documents are certainly part of it, but I think that there's a broad concern about Ambassador Bolton. They're going to look into it. And like I said, if there's no crime here, we're not going to prosecute it. If there is a crime here, of course, Ambassador Bolton will get his day in court. That's how it should be. But again, our focus here is on, did he break the law? Did he commit crimes against the American people? If so, then he deserves to be prosecuted.
Wow. So J.D. Vance apparently knows more information about this than Donald Trump, unless Donald Trump's aware of it but didn't know about the actual raid that was about to take place. Just out of speculation, how many people, show of hands, think that this could be related in some fashion to what's going on in Russia and the Ukraine? We said last week, during all the meetings and all the UK leaders wanting to come to the United States and all the European leaders wanting to talk with Zelensky, and then the meeting last weekend that happened up in Alaska with Vladimir Putin, that I said there were some agents that were wanting to keep this conflict going for whatever reason it may be. A political reason, a personal reason, personal benefits that are happening, the military-industrial complex, the neocons, quote-unquote, that want to keep conflict going around the world. John Bolton would fit right into that slot. I mean, he loves war. He told George Bush to do all these different conflicts. He was trying to tell Donald Trump to do conflicts. Donald Trump even mentioned, by the way, at some point, I don't think I have the, oh, I do have the audio. Let me play this, because he had said that John Bolton was a benefit to him at that time for just the fear tactic of scaring nations into potentially what could happen if John Bolton was involved.
When I hired him, he served a good purpose because, as you know, he was one of the people that forced Bush to do the ridiculous bombings in the Middle East. Bolton, he wants to always kill people, and he's very bad at what he does. But he worked out great for me because every time he doesn't talk, he's like a very quiet person, except on television. If he could say something bad about Trump, he'll always do that. But he really doesn't talk. He's quiet. And I'd walk into a room with him with a foreign country, and the foreign country would give me everything because they said, oh, no, they're going to get blown up because John Bolton's there. He's not a smart guy, but he could be a very unpatriotic guy. I mean, we're going to find out. I know nothing about it. I just saw it this morning. They did a raid.
Yeah, so I'm wondering if with this escalation that we've seen, especially after Russia had ended up bombing a factory in Ukraine that was owned by a U.S. company that could be escalating some of the tensions in that region, how much is John Bolton involved with this? He's been a national security advisor for Bush. I think he had some national security advisor position, or at least contractually through, the Barack Obama, maybe even Joe Biden. I mean, they're all part of that establishment group. And if this is the big issue where Donald Trump really wants peace, who's working behind the scenes to keep this conflict going and making them not want to sit down, not be able to compromise in a deal, and not make any kind of ceasefire or peace deal actually happen? To, number one, give Donald Trump credit for it, but number two, because somebody's benefiting from it on the back end. And John Bolton could be one of those individuals. I don't know. At the end of the day, though, this is a deep state reset that's happening, because this is happening at the same time when we had Tulsi Gabbard cutting near 50% of her staff in the Department of National Intelligence. And those that are, again, fighting against her, where she's openly said multiple times it's hard to get anything done because people won't follow the orders, they won't go along with the agenda, and they have their own agenda they're trying to sabotage. The leakers that are leaking out information, wanting to make the Trump administration look bad. Is John Bolton part of this, having been a foreign security advisor before? And how much is he involved? It's going to be interesting to see where this goes.
Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier. When reason meets radio. This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Yeah, reason, common sense, rationale. What's up? Welcome back into it. So, I told you, man, it's a crazy day. All these bombshells is dropping all at the same time. We have the raid of John Bolton, the firing of so many different intelligence agents, 50% of the staff from the DNI, with Tulsi Gabbard that's been happening. J.D. Vance says there's a deeper investigation going on for criminal activity, not just the obtaining and the collection of classified documents, which is why they raided like Mar-a-Lago for Donald Trump because they said that he was just mishandling classified documents. That's part of it with John Bolton, but they say it's an ongoing part of a deeper investigation of criminality. What does that mean? What are we talking about? And is that the beginning of the ridding of the deep state in Washington, D.C.? If you're not willing to do America's best interests and actually work for who your boss is, Donald Trump and the cabinet members, including Kash Patel and Dan Bongino and Pam Bondi and Tulsi Gabbard and all these others, that if you're not willing to work for your boss, then it's time for you to hit the road, Jack, and get on out. But that leads us to another bit of disclosure and another big win for the Trump administration, in my humble opinion.
What's trending today?
Did you see? Part of it's out today. According to Fox News, they had the headline just a little while ago.
The top line here is that there's no client list, according to Ghislaine Maxwell, and there are no high-powered individuals that were on any sort of list. She did not incriminate anybody in that 9-hour interview that she did with the Deputy Attorney General, Todd Blanche. She said right here, quote, "There is no list." We'll start with that. The genesis of that story I can actually trace for you is from its absolute inception, if that is what you're interested in. That's part of the DOJ transcript. Todd Blanche went down to meet with her in a highly unusual move last month down in Tallahassee, Florida, where she was serving that 20-year sentence at the time. Now she's been moved just outside of College Station, Texas. She was Jeffrey Epstein's longtime girlfriend. She was convicted of helping him sex traffic underage.
Okay, we get the information from there on out for who Jeffrey Epstein was, who Ghislaine Maxwell was, and now the transcript. As far as I'm aware, almost the entire transcript of the Ghislaine Maxwell interview with the Department of Justice and Tom Blanche talking about Donald Trump, talking about this Epstein list, that apparently there is no list. We already kind of knew that, though. And maybe some had this narrative that there was like an Excel sheet of this person with this contact information, this cell phone number, this address, ended up visiting the island at this time and met with this massage parlor girl. Like, I think that some people were expecting that type of list. That doesn't exist. We already know that. We want the due diligence of our law enforcement agencies, of the FBI and others, to get the list, or at least a list of names that were in association with Jeffrey Epstein. And then based on the video documents, with, if you remember, there were literally boxes and tubs of hard drives of videos and pictures and everything else, we know and have an idea of who was down there doing shady you-know-what down at the Epstein Island, and we can put together this list of associates that were involved with Epstein. Then we use those photos to link them together and say, ha-ha, we got a case against you. But apparently that's not the case, and not what we're doing right now, right? No. What we did confirm, however, with this transcript that was released by the DOJ with part of this transparency of the Trump administration on the Epstein files, is that Donald Trump had nothing to do with Epstein Island or being involved in anything that was bad or childlike or illegal. As according to the transcript, Tom Blanche had said, "Did you ever observe President Trump receive a massage?" Maxwell, "Never." Blanche said, "And did you ever hear Mr. Epstein or anybody say that President Trump had done anything inappropriate with masseuses or with anybody in your world?" Maxwell's response, "Absolutely never, in any context." Now, the other side, obviously, the ones that have been calling Donald Trump every name in the book, including a pedophile, because obviously now it's part of their core values. It's part of their core belief. They know that Donald Trump's a pedophile. They know he's a criminal. He's a convicted felon, for crying out loud, right? That they know deep down in their core that he did. So nothing that will come out will ever change their mind on that, even though they don't have any information. And they'll just say that it was made up because she's looking for a plea deal. And that could very well be. But if she's looking for a plea deal, not only would she not incriminate Donald Trump, but wouldn't she incriminate Democrat operatives as his opposition, which she did not do either? Makes you think, huh?
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier. Truth, reason, and common sense. This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Yeah, just welcome back into it. Great to have you today for a Friday. Finally made it to the end of the week. Pat yourself on the back. You see the light at the end of the tunnel. You can celebrate for a couple more days. And we are a week away from your Labor Day celebration, too. So that's exciting. Your final summer festivity holiday before the trifecta actually begins. How do you like that fire hose of news that's been coming out today? We have the raid on John Bolton. We have the Epstein transcript that's been released from Ghislaine Maxwell with her interview with the DOJ, clearing Donald Trump. And again, if Democrats don't want to believe it, cool. You don't have to believe it, but you would think, you're always going to have they call us conspiracy theories, man. You're a conspiracy theorist. Yeah, okay. If that's the case, cool. But if you truly believe that, then maybe she's trying to make a deal. Maybe she's not going to confirm Donald Trump. But you would think she would also identify Democrats who were elites as well that were political operatives against Donald Trump in order to make him really happy, so that way he would pardon her if that was her motive at the end of the day. And she didn't. In fact, she said that there was no real big, high-end, elite celebrity, politician, whatever, that she was aware of. I don't know that I necessarily believe that. But at the same time, you can see the transcript, and she said that there's not a real list, which we already kind of knew. Thanks, you got to put it together for us instead of just, here's an Excel sheet of everybody involved. I mean, that's wasn't going to happen. And she also says that Epstein did not kill himself, or so she believed. We'll cover some more of that as information comes out. But I want to shift gears just a bit.
What's trending today?
So much news going on. I don't know if you saw Donald Trump yesterday down there talking to the National Guard and thanking them for what they're doing for cleaning up the streets in Washington, D.C., giving them pizza. And apparently he plans on moving that around the nation as well.
I really am honored that the National Guard has done such an incredible job working with the police. And we haven't had to bring in the regular military, which we're willing to do if we have to. And after we do this, we'll go to another location and we'll make it safe also. We're going to make our country very safe. We're going to make our cities very, very safe. Chicago's a mess. You have an incompetent mayor, grossly incompetent. And we'll straighten that one out probably next. That'll be our next one after this.
All right, we'll see if that happens. I don't know that I necessarily agree with moving the National Guard all over different cities. At the same time, if you're not cleaning up the crime in your streets with the taxpayer money that's sent to actually pay for law enforcement and for government to do its job by making sure you are safe in your streets and your communities, then what the hell are we paying taxes for in the first place? But is this a complete decimation of the Democrat Party, and what's the future of them look like? Really happy to have on the program to talk about this and so much more. He is the author of the book Freedom Revealed, A Simple, Elegant System. Happy to have back on the show Mr. Don Wilkie. Don, how are you, my friend?
Terrific, Andy. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, there's so much to cover and so many things I want to talk to you about. But right now, the state of the Democrat Party, they were at least looking at their future of the party with amnesty, using certain illegal migrants, hoping that crime was still there, keeping the class warfare going. They had a whole agenda and a whole long-term goal for the party. How's that working out for them right now, do you think?
I hope it isn't 100% entirely foiled. It was an awful plan, and it would have been disaster for America.
Yeah, that is very true. Let's go on the immigration one for just a moment. We got the report from Kristi Noem this week that 1.6 million illegal migrants have already self-deported themselves because under the plan that Donald Trump had, we're going to give you some cash, and then you can actually get in line to come back into the country legally, properly through this program that he started. He's also talking about doing a new census in the country that is going to not count illegal migrants. With all this going on, then, of course, the rest of the deportations that are happening, with all of that going on, what does that do to the makeup of the districts? What does that do for the voter rolls of the Democrat Party? What does this do for the state of politics in general right now, do you think?
Well, it should lower the number of voters, although I'm not sure the Democrat Party actually needs real voters to count ballots. But one of the things that it's going to do, and I read this on the internet, and I hadn't realized this, but we have a housing shortage here. And with 1.6 million, maybe 8 million illegals going back home, the housing market will open up and people can start affording houses again.
Yeah.
One of these unanticipated benefits,
Yeah, it's a really great point. Yeah, housing market's been really strained for a long time. If we get rid of, now there's a speculation of what, like anywhere between 10 to 30 million illegal migrants in the nation that came in just under the Biden administration. But this is a big first step towards moving to that front. At the same time, if we redo a census, do you think that we're going to see a vast difference in where the congressional lines need to be rebuilt? We're talking about redistricting right now, but are we going to see a major drop in population size in some of these big cities?
Oh, I think absolutely. Los Angeles for sure. And I don't know about Boston, the situation in Boston, but they're acting very strangely. They're falling on their sword to keep the illegal immigrants in Boston. So I'm not sure what's going on there.
Yeah.
But, on the West Coast, you have Albuquerque, and you have San Francisco, and you've got Los Angeles, and you've got Phoenix, and it has to have an effect.
Yeah, whole reset's going to happen for sure. We had seen a report this week that showed Democrat voter registration between 2020 and 2024 down 2.1 million registered voters. At the same time, Republicans saw an increase of 2.4 million registered voters, a difference of near 4.5 million overall. Is that from the platform or lack thereof from the Democrat Party? Is it from a lack of leadership? But why do you think so many people are walking away from the Democrat Party?
Well, I think the Democrat Party's system was get as many groups as they could. I think what they thought was groups are good, and it doesn't matter really what we promise them as long as we promise that we will take care of groups. And they went after the unions. They went after women. They went after the gays. They went after the Muslims. They went after the Jews and the Muslims.
Yeah.
And I think people are coming to the realization today that the individual in a system of freedom is the most important part. It's as big a group as you can have if you want to have a rule of law. In other words, when you go in front of Lady Justice, who's wearing the blindfold and holding the scales, she doesn't look at a group. She looks at the individual.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what group you're in.
Yeah, it's a great
point.
point.
I think people are coming to that realization.
Yeah, they lost their idea of representation for a group because it was not about the individual anymore as part of a group, but it was about the groupthink mentality and that collective bargaining as a whole. And they started turning on each other, right? I mean, if they started going after everybody, they went after the Muslim community and the gay community as a representation. They don't like each other, and they started infighting that I think really brought down part of the destruction of the party, didn't it?
Well, even more basic, the Jews always have voted for Democrats.
Yeah.
These people are at war right now. I've always scratched my head on that one, but that has been the case in American politics. The Jews have always supported Democrats.
Sure.
I think that's about to change.
Yeah. Your book, Freedom Revealed, A Simple, Elegant System. Are we getting back to freedom? Now with this revolution that's happening, we're seeing the Democrat Party crumble because of their identity politics that they focus so much attention on. Are we getting back to true freedom under this Trump administration, do you think?
Well, Andy, one of the real things we've just hit on is in a system of freedom, you concentrate on the individual. I mean, we don't concentrate on the group and what benefits the group is going to have. We're looking out for our own lives and what's good for our individual being. And one of the things that's coming back, and I'm so happy to see Trump do this, is the rule of law. Now, you mentioned some of these cities. I'm from Detroit. I'm a refugee from Detroit. And my business was forced out of Detroit because there was no law. In other words, all the cities in America, all the big cities in America are anarchy.
Yeah.
There is no law. There is no law and order. I mean, you can't fight a gang. You have to hunker down in your house. And what that does is it harms the marketplace. People can't go out and make a living, and there's not job opportunities because all the businesses move out.
Yeah.
And I'm so happy Trump is using Washington, our national capital, as a trial balloon to see how it will work. And I just think people are going gaga. I think they're going to be really, really pleased over what is going to happen in Washington, D.C. I don't know if you've been to Washington, D.C. lately, but it really was getting bad. I was embarrassed for foreigners coming over and seeing our capital.
Yeah, I haven't been there in probably about 20 years, so it's been a while, and it definitely has gone downhill. But you're right. I mean, he is exposing the fact that the social experiment for the other side has failed, that in a matter of, a couple of weeks, that we can clean up the streets in an entire city and say we're not going to tolerate this crime any longer. Don, why did we just become so accustomed to it? Is it was just, that's the way it is, that if you live in a city, you can't go out at night, you can't go see a show, or if you do, then you run home, you don't go to certain areas of town, and you hunker down. Why did we become conditioned to just think that's the norm in a city and we just have to accept it?
You know, it was a long march, as if we want to use Mao Zedong. But I left Detroit in 1984, and you could not go to court. You could not get a judgment. If somebody stole something, they were out on the streets within minutes.
Wow.
If there was absolutely no law and order.
Yeah.
And you cannot run a business that way. What I used to call all my fellow business people was we were in competition to build forts. In other words, if the guy put grating on his windows, I had to brick them up with cinder blocks because they would always break through the weakest defense. And
that's wild.
Detroit became a war zone. It really did. I heard Victor Davis Hanson say, I believe it was him, he said, if you want to see what Europe looked like after World War II, go visit Detroit.
Wow.
And he's right.
That's a scary thought. And we allowed ourselves to be at that place. I question on why, if we're paying taxes for law enforcement, if we're paying taxes for city services, why we would continue to do that if they're not doing the job that actually allows us to flourish and prosper the way that we're supposed to. Don, hang on the line. Got to take a break. It's Don Wilkie, author of the book Freedom Revealed, A Simple, Elegant System. I want to talk about the future of the Democrat Party and this shattering of their entire social experiment. Does that make them hit the reset button, or do they double down? Seems like so far, since the loss of the election in 2024, they've kind of doubled down on their insanity. Is that about to change? We'll talk about some of that and more when we come back right around the corner. Stay here.
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier. America's safe space for common sense. This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
It's all about evolution with intentionality. We've been very transparent about our goal of making our stores feel brighter and even more welcoming than they already are, while maintaining that country hospitality and charm that we're known for. We're just looking at ways to freshen up the experience so that we can open our door a bit wider for more guests.
All right, so that is apparently the head of Cracker Barrel. That was made just a few months ago, talking about their plan to renovate, and apparently they've released their new logo. It's getting some pushback, getting rid of the barrel, getting rid of the individual sitting with the barrel on the Cracker Barrel, and then the country store, the old country store, or whatever it's called. I got to admit, I mean, even if their intention was not to do the whole DEI thing, which it's sounding more and more like it actually was, if you're going to rebrand and modernize Cracker Barrel, why would you get rid of the authenticness of the barrel and the guy sitting there? Why would you get rid of it? That's like the whole point. And it's a store. You walk in there, and there's cool stuff that you're walking around shopping and looking at before you go back there. And then you see all the old school, like, country western stuff, which is the whole point of the restaurant. And then you go back there and you buy some more things before you leave the store. That's the entire point of the business. But yet they don't get that, which is why, by the way, headline today is that the stock price for them has lost near $100 million in value for Cracker Barrel.
Say what?
Why? Because, well, you want to get rid of any type of identity that has to do with traditionalness or whatever the case is with their DEI move. We're hanging out with Don Wilkie right now. Freedom Revealed is the book. You can find it on Amazon, other places as well. Don, do you think, I mean, go woke, go broke, and already we're starting to see $100 million value loss for Cracker Barrel. Apparently, we haven't learned our lesson yet with the new modernized rebranding in the country.
Andy, there's an old saying, the marketplace never lies. And the marketplace is you and me and everybody else.
Yeah.
And if the business is not providing us with something we want, we don't buy it. I mean, that's the beauty of the marketplace. We don't have to buy it.
Yeah.
And, you know, over and over again, Jaguar I keep thinking of, and, of course, Bud Light, they went to their customers and said, buy this. We've got a whole new different way of looking at things. Buy it. And the customer said, we don't want to buy it.
Right.
Marketplace never lies.
Yeah, marketplace never lies. And especially something with like Cracker Barrel. I get, you know, these PR groups and all these marketing people think we have to make everything modern, which, by the way, modern to me personally sucks. You can just see what happened to McDonald's when you had a really colorful, you know, McDonald's in the playground in the back and all the kids having fun. Now it looks like this gray really crotchety. I mean, the modernizing of any type of architecture or design, to me, just absolutely sucks. And I don't want that to happen to Cracker Barrel because there's something unique about it. It's about the classicness. It's about the dust on the wall, not in your food, but the dust on the wall, the little bit darkerness, the cool wooden wheels that are on the wall. That's what that entire restaurant's all about, isn't it?
Well, evidently, I was never a big patron of Cracker Barrel. I've been there 2 or 3 times, but the one thing I always did notice when I was there was it was packed.
Yeah.
And maybe because it was packed, I didn't go too often. But, yeah, I mean, I'm not sure why they went out of business or how they have a new ownership coming in and they're doing new reworks. But if a stock drops and you lose $100 million, you might want to take a look at what you're doing.
Yeah, might want to reevaluate for that. But it goes into the whole identity politics as well. If we're getting rid of a particular identity, which is the classicness, the traditionalness, the old school farmer or the rancher or the rural community, the guy sitting next to a wooden barrel. I mean, that's part of this battle against identity that we have right now, right? White guy bad, rural community bad, farmers and ranchers are bad because we want the hipster city folk that are actually going to come in and try and be the new demographic for this restaurant. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Well, as I say, the marketplace will tell, and this woman seems hell-bent to make the changes, and from her perspective, everybody is thrilled with it.
Yeah.
She's thrilled with it, but the marketplace is the ultimate arbitrator.
That's right.
And we shall know sooner than later.
It's a great point. Don, we got about 30 seconds left as we wrap up. What's the future of the Democrat Party? Are they learning their lesson, or they still have a ways to go to figure out that they haven't hit rock bottom quite yet?
They haven't. They don't know. They haven't hit rock bottom, and they don't have any people that will hold the mirror up to themselves and say, look, we're doing it wrong. One of the things they need to do is understand freedom. Freedom is a system, and a system is mechanical. It's not philosophical.
Yeah.
You can't change the way a system works, and that's really what the Democrats are trying to do.
They have a ways to go. Yeah,
and I'm afraid of American cities because all the blue-run cities are really anarchy.
That's a great point. Don, we're out of time, my friend. We appreciate it. Freedom Revealed, go check it out. Everybody have a great weekend. We'll see you back on the radio Monday. Bye.